Good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday. It is the 4th of August. You're here at Lunch and Learn. Today, as my revised email said, we're going to start off focusing on updates within NewMind mapping. Richard's going to take the lead today. He's going to be going over some of the updates in the software. We may demonstrate things. I've got my screen up. So, Richard, it's all yours.
Thanks, Rob. I'm still just kind of unmuting people,
Oh, okay. I can
but
talk
as
for
you,
a few minutes longer.
that's all right. As you noted, I likened this in if you were looking at the listserv, and hopefully you do look at those things around this times when we're releasing stuff, because that's where all the latest information comes out. And if you had and were expecting the software to be released yesterday and wondering why it wasn't, if you went to the listserv, you would find out what was going on and why. Um, at at the final hour before release, well, first of all, one of our developers broke some fingers, which is not helpful when you're about to release a major software update, in case we have to put out any fires. And then the second thing is we found some small glitches, but key ones that could really cause you all headaches. And rather than just put it out there, we decided to wait a few days to make sure those things were working. And to do that, we we fix the bugs. We send it to quality assurance. So we have a department that goes through that and checks all of that. And then it goes to support. And then they check on that. And if they sign off and say, well, okay, we're satisfied with the beta, then we'll release it. So, um, it's like any engineering group. And it was a little bit like the countdown at NASA. And we're about to launch. And somebody said, oh, we left out this $5 part. I'm like, really? Okay, I have to stop the countdown. So that's or the weather changed and you didn't know. So that's where we are. We hope to have it out fairly shortly, but again, we want to make sure it goes through quality control processes and that you're getting the best we can put out there. There's nothing worse than something that's not working properly when you're trying to work with people with mental disorders under time constraints, and you're concerned about their health. So we want to make sure this is done right. Given that's the case, we did have some map updates today, and those map updates, uh, they're not massive or anything, but they're important. We want you to know what those are so you know what to expect in terms of the maps. And then when we're done with that, depending on how much time we have, we'll start going into the new software because from our perspective, you can't possibly see it too much before it gets released, because the more you see it, the more you're familiar with it, the more comfortable you're going to feel moving into it. Yeah, I don't buy a house when I just go see it for the first time. I like want to make a couple of looks at it, check it out, talk to other people in the neighborhood. So you'll have the ability to maintain the classic view, but we want you to be familiarized as much as possible with this one. So with that in mind, and this is not going to be formal. Jordan gave you a formal overview. It's going to be Rob and I like click and clack going over this stuff. Um, uh, and just what's going on. So here we are at the NewMind Maps release notes site, and there's a site you can actually go to and see what's there and even chat with people. So the first thing that we've done on the map system when you go up there is we've improved the EEG editing process and reliability. This is something we've been working on for a long time. This is a real trick. I mean, there's software out there where you can edit on your computer, but you're not going to have much luck finding software out there where you can edit live on the internet. We kind of pioneered that. So if you get raw EEG and you look at the raw data, let's say you've had a kid who was really moving around a lot, and he just said, okay, forget it. I'm not going to use the auto artifacting. I'm going to take, a minute or two of each location, and then I'm going to hand edit it up on the EEG edit tool. because you know it's not going to go through unless you do. Or you may have done a map and try to upload it, and it says, you know, it can't be auto artifacted because it's got too much artifact in it, which doesn't happen very often if you've actually had auto artifacting when you took the map. But so these tough cases where there's a lot of movement, you're going to edit it. What was happening to some people, because browsers are often unreliable, and you're always relying on that constant connection between you and the cloud, and there's a massive amount of data going back and forth, that people would start editing page by page, and there would be a problem for maybe several different reasons, and the browser would freeze, or the screen would crash out, and they'd go like, oh my God, I just spent, you know, 10 minutes editing that thing, and now I have to pull it back up and re-edit it all over again because you'd lose the data. So that could be very frustrating, and we know, but it took a long time to figure out how to do this because we're pioneering this process, this kind of editing. So it says right here, you would randomly throw errors when navigating to the next or previous page, and that the edit tool has been re-engineered to correct these errors so you have a more stable experience. So the time it takes to go from next page to previous page has been reduced. So it moves much faster, and you know that'll make the whole process faster. Once a file's been submitted for processing, the edit tool can be closed. And while that is processing, you can go and work on another map and edit that. So if you've got a few of these tough maps that you have to hand edit, you can do them in one sitting and just let them process in the background. You know, of course, that's always dependent on the fact that you have a good high-speed internet connection. The poorer your connection, the, you know, the less efficient this will be, because we're dependent on, you know, all of the internet providing systems out there. Okay, we have the advanced error recovery. So when you start editing and you do get an error, and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like I lost this, all that editing again. You can go to the Brain Maps report page, and it'll say error there. And if you click on the error button, it'll allow the file to be reloaded, and it will reload with all your previous edits. So you're editing, a problem occurs, you can go back to the map reports page, you know, where you have this, it'll say error, you click on that, and it'll upload the data again with your edits still in place, so you won't lose that time. And I know how frustrating that is, because that happened to me often too. But I found that the higher quality maps I made, the less often it happened. In fact, we had grad students mapping up at Greensboro, University of North Carolina, Greensboro, and they were sending me data. I was running it through all auto artifacting. I rarely had a problem. These were students, so I was impressed. On the other hand, they were mapping other grad students and not kids who were moving targets usually. So this is what you'll see come up. You know, when it says when you upload and there's too much artifact, you'll see that error message now, and then you can hand edit. Now, any questions on the new editing tool improvements?
I have a technical question, Richard.
Yeah, Martin.
Just for my clarity, is the update, because there is a clear separation between the map software and the training software. So is the map software you're presenting here already live? Or
yes.
Does that come with the package? Yeah, that's important to know.
Yes. Yes, thanks for bringing that clarification, Martin. If you're unclear on it, I'm sure many others are. Yes, this has already been updated. This is in your system now, your map system today. And there were a few small minor bugs this morning, because it's impossible not to have a bug with new software practically. It's all about management. And development team got it right away, and they're resolving them very quickly. Most of them have already been resolved. But if you see anything unusual, we really appreciate you calling in or chatting or emailing us and letting us know. We can get straight to it. Everybody's on standby today and tomorrow for that purpose. Okay, let's talk about the ISI and CEC. We've done some changes on there, and this one is one that I've wanted to do for, 5 or 6 years, maybe 7 years at least, and that is to have a reliability scale. We often talk about the fact that somebody, his map doesn't look so great. They may have a lot of anxiety or depression on the map, but their anxiety or depression isn't looking that bad on the map, or they're not reporting that they're that avoidant, And you look at some of these things on the CEC and the ISI, and you go like, I have a feeling these people aren't being really honest with themselves and with me about what they're putting in there. And we call them underreporters. Well, there's a scale methodology, if you studied psychometric instruments and learned how to produce them in grad school, you would know this, but most people don't do that, so it's not something always well known. But in the MMPI and the Personality Assessment Inventory and all the major inventories, the Milan, the California Personality Test, there's something called a lie scale in them. It's a term, I know it's not politically appropriate anymore, but that was the term that was used going back decades in professional scale development. And what it does is it asks people questions which are obviously outrageous, and they affirm them anyways. And they're usually questions about how honest they are and how good they feel, and the more they answer them in the affirmative, the more you know that they're not being straight with themselves or with the test. So the self-rating reliability scale has that feature. So now it'll show up in the map, and it's called the self-rating reliability, and it'll say, okay, 21. So you'll get on a scale a rating, that's high or low. Obviously, you want the lowest possible rating on that scale. The higher it is, the more unreliable. We haven't put a mean and standard deviation on it because we need to collect data. You can't do that until you have the data, but we have so much data coming in daily now that we can pretty quickly get a number. So we'll report this number on the Lunch and Learns, and we'll report these values on the listserv. So that's why it's always useful to keep an eye on the listserv. So we'll let you know as soon as possible what we believe are the best numbers for this. But you can watch it yourself. You'll probably get an idea pretty quickly, like Rob did with the training efficiency. And when we first had that, we didn't know, and it took us a while to figure out that on average most people were maybe between 5 or 10 and 30, and how to best look at that number. Well, since we don't have massive university teams that are heavily funded by the government to do this, we're kind of crowdsourcing this and doing this all ourselves in the field of neurofeedback, but maybe that's how it's going to work in the future in science and in development. Any questions on the self-rating reliability scale or comments?
So, Richard, I guess my question is, when it comes up, what tells us that it's not reliable?
Well, it just doesn't say it's not reliable. You just get a number saying this is, on a scale of 1 to 30, et cetera. How high or how low, how likely is this person being inaccurate in the responses, making themselves trying to look too good.
I do have a question, Richard, to develop reliability. Of course, Martin again. Sorry.
No problem.
When I see figures like this, I would always want to know the rates. Since I'm not familiar with all these established ratings. Do you publish yours? Like, for instance, the scale goes from 0 to 30. Is that published somewhere on the NewMind platform?
Yes, it will be when we publish the mean and standard deviations and the standard error and the range, the scale, max, the min, our n sizes, and all of that stuff.
Fantastic. So I can, somehow locate where 21, as depicted here, would be. Yes. Okay.
We'll make that very clear, and then as we develop confidence statistically, then just like with the physiology checklist or the CEC, we'll put a number in there. I mean, if those of you who have been with us for a long time, you'll remember there was no mean physiology value. Rob and I were eyeballing it, saying, well, we think it's around 100, 150, something like that is when things start to really slow down in neurofeedback. And we both independently came to that conclusion. So did other people. And as it turned out, that was about 2 standard deviations out. I mean, I'm sorry, not 2, that was 1 standard deviation out from the norm. And we didn't know what the mean was, but that's what we figured the cutoff was. And then eventually we had enough stats so we could actually run the numbers and say, okay. And then we had enough where we could start running those numbers and compare them with anxiety and depression and slowed alpha, which I spent all of last year doing, and I'm publishing on NewMind Journal, what our findings are. Those things, take time to acquire, and then eventually they show up as a number in red or green with different colors and what the mean and standard deviations are. So always, if you can't find something, we usually post this stuff in the help section on NewMind Maps. There's a couple of things that haven't been posted because, again, they're in the queue. I've done them. They're waiting to be posted. And it's just a matter of, having the manpower to get it up there.
Richard, I'm wondering if you could, in terms of what might make it really easy when you get to the place of telling us what the numbers are. I know when I do testing and the reliability, there's usually a category, and the categories are usually acceptable, caution, and extreme caution. And I think if we had those qualitative descriptors, that might be really helpful.
Cassandra, thank you so much. That is such a fantastic feedback, because you're obviously somebody using instruments and this is where they've evolved to, and this is what you're used to as a clinician. That helps us get an idea of what everybody else is going to do best with. So thank you. Rob,
I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify something to make sure I'm understanding this right.
Thank you.
Under each section of the ISI, each category, or under the entire ISI, are we going to see a self-rating reliability number?
Under the entire ISI, it's about the way that you do this in psychology is you put key questions scattered in with all the other scales, and so that they're not easily identifiable, and then people answer them, and it gives you a sense of as they're going through the thing, how honest they're being about their answers, or how accurate, really.
And we're going to be able to know either through what Cassandra just added or what you will add, what 21 actually means, for example.
Yes, initially we won't.
Okay, but we know here anything over, you said, the higher the number, the less reliable their answers are.
Yeah, just watch it for a while. And you can actually, I mean, from this day on, you'll be seeing more and more of this. You can get an idea by watching it, And there's no guarantee that this will be 100% accurate or whatever. Well, that's why we're going to run the statistics. You know, how accurate do we think this thing is? What's the reliability? And it's not going to be perfect, and we may even evolve the scale over time, because that's a science in itself. And even in the psychology literature, there's arguments for and against this methodology. But I think it's valuable. If you don't take it too seriously, it can give you a sense of where people are with this, at least give you a red flag anyway, to investigate a little further and confirm or disconfirm the possibility that they're not being reliable.
Dr. Suter, this is Shane. Quick question in regards to feedback. I know some of the testing measures I use, and when it hits on reliability, it also offers suggestions of ways to screen it out, such as life history or something like that, or such another exam to another type assessment tool to look at with it. Will this offer suggestions? For example, I enjoy on when y'all do a map review, how y'all will compare the CEC response to what the EEG says, and y'all may share, like, they may have poor insights to their cells versus hiding information. So will there be suggestions with it also to help screen out?
That will take time. I mean, that's
Okay.
but that's a great feedback, great suggestion, and a great idea. So now you discussed it, that'll be one of the things we'll be looking into.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the idea. I mean, we're always interested in what's going to help you and what we can do. Okay, so that's, to me, that was one of the big ones. This will be important for some people too, but the biggest one is the next one for me. Ability to view training filters on training sessions reports. So the training session report's been updated, so you can click between standard filter and training filters. You know, we just had the standard filters up because, you know, that's the best estimate of what's going on in the map. That was the most critical thing to have up there. But apparently a lot of people have been requesting that they could see the training filter review as well. So now you'll be able to go between either one and see. Now this is the one that I really like. This drove me nuts. But, you know, this is interesting. You know, the developers don't know what we need. Often they're guessing, and we're always trying to tell them. And, you know, it's it can be tricky at times. But what we've done now is that you can now navigate your training session reports, go up there and go from forward and backward in time without having to close the report and then collect another one and then click open on that one, which I just think is fabulous.
Me too. That's going to save just all kinds of time.
Yeah, don't you think? I mean, to me, this is really the big
Yeah.
one for me.
Well, when I mentor people, some of them with their mentoring are on a Mac that doesn't have a Microsoft, you know, Windows partition. So the only way to review sessions is through their brain maps, you know, accounts, which gets tough if they have really high numbers because the numbers don't
Yes.
go up. My hope is that the team will be able to do something with that down the road too. But they're always, yeah, you go, when you look at a session, you have to close it out, go back in to look at a session. So this is lovely. This is
better than lovely. I wish I had a better word for it, because I can't,
Okay.
you look at a map and then you have to go back and go out of it and then remember the date you looked at, so you don't reopen the same one again. And this is just, oh, this is so much better. Thank you. I saw it this morning and I thought, next and previous, oh my goodness.
Yes. And we hope in due course to make it so that clients can go up. You can make it allowable or disallow their ability to go up and look at their trend sessions through My NewMind. So that's going to be an option down the road too. It's something that for home training, certain people will be very valuable, because you have people doing for instance, proportional training, and they go like, yeah, I saw that that line at the end, but I really want to see how I did with my alpha, or they have alpha theta, and they say, and they understand what's going on. I really want to see how far my alpha came down and how much it intertwined with the theta. So to those, kind of high-end clients, you can, in the future, not yet, but we're planning to make it possible so they go in through My NewMind and review their session and see how they did, and I've had, during the beta testing with certain people, I've actually given them, the clients, and these are really sharp people, professionals, and I've given them access to the clinical software, because I found it was more effective, the training, if they could go and look at what they did. The majority of people are completely confused, don't have anything to do with just how did I do, doc? But you have this group that really needs this to do well. So that will be coming in down the line as well. Okay, ability to upgrade NewMind Map subscription from basic to pro. So users on the beginner plan can now upgrade the remaining time on the subscription to the professional plan. So that's something too that they did. That was more of an internal thing. But those are the updates for the maps, not too earth-shaking, mostly stuff to make your life easier and save you time. Any comments on that? All right, so now we have some time left. We're going to start playing with the new training software while you're here, so you can start getting really used to it. So with that, I'm going to turn the screen over to Rob.
Okie doke.
And Rob has used it more than anybody on planet Earth, I think, at this point, which is why I want to turn it over to him.
There it is. Show my screen. All right. So when you get into the beta software, which is, it says beta here, when you get into the release of the software, this is how your screen will be. And as Jordan pointed out, you have that option to return to the classic experience by just clicking there. And Richard and I and Jordan really think it's smart to keep working with your traditional software, go into the new stuff, play around a bit. But if you get a little frustrated, just go back to this. It all works the same way in the sense of running a session. If you get into the new software and you're feeling pretty comfortable, this little menu down here, you just click on it and it's gone until you hit going back to the home page, and then it'll come back up again. So Richard, anything in particular you want me to take a
Well, I think
peek at?
in orientation, let's just talk about, the first thing that was disorienting to me was these squares.
So, yeah.
And how do you explore them, and what do you do with them, and why are they that way? I don't have my list on the left side of the clients on this one. So
Right.
that list on the left side has now been replaced by these squares, right?
Exactly, these squares. So I'd like to think of it, for those of you that have been on the planet for a while, you'll remember the old index filing systems that we had, right down to address books before we had electronic address books. So think of these little tabs as each patient and each active protocol you have. So one of the things that I think Jordan covered is, you can go back over, you can set your time. This is set for the last 12 months. You can just go over the last month, and that'll get rid of a lot of tiles for people who you haven't trained with. You see demo on my screen because I use this as a means of demonstrating things as well as test driving some of the software. So you can go to your in-clinic, and the menu that I have up here, most of these are things I've done at home with, in the clinic, if you will, in my office. But if I click at home, it's going to greatly reduce, in this case, with an active plan. Now you see I've got one active person right now working at home. The demos are, again, just for purposes of demonstration. For
Yeah.
those of you that haven't seen this, and Richard, I want you to go ahead, but when you see a pattern like this, and it happened the other day, someone sent me, they said, look at these sessions, that like the training efficiency is almost identical, and everything was really good. I said, yeah, because the patient was in simulation mode. You will see in simulation mode repeated patterns, especially in the delta range. So if you see something like that, always be suspicious. Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, this each of these things, it gives you an at a glance, really valuable information. I like that. It says credits remaining sessions complete, because I get a sense right away, just at a glance. Oh, we have to do something about remaining credits, or wow, this person's been doing a lot of sessions and hasn't contacted me, or this week, and what are they doing? So that's really nice. And then you can see when their first session was and the last session was. That's always a question in my mind too, is, okay, now when did we start on this protocol? And wow, that was a while back, and they've done this many sessions, and they're at this location, and it's eyes open, and it's this protocol. So it's like all right there, the most critical things that I want to know when I'm first pull somebody's name up.
Right. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to another computer, folks. Just give me a minute. I'll be back there at the one I'm sitting at. I'm going to upload my NewMind software and just start a simulation session running, because we talked yesterday, I guess last week, Jordan went over the fact you can see a real training session live on your screen if you're working with home trainers, or if you have a clinic where you've got multiple patients running simultaneously. So once I get this software up and running, I'll go back there and do some more demonstration. But while I'm waiting for that to boot up, so when you want to run a patient, so this is a demonstration here, and this is not this is an active home plan. So I'm going to go back to clinic plan and just get a demo up. So once you click on one of your cards, okay, and you can scroll down this way as well. So you have different ways. You kind of like the wide screen view of it. And then once you select a plan, you can still look at other plans by scrolling up and down. If you want to view your plan details, you go there. And of course, this is all demo software, but there's the protocol.
Yeah, on the left side there is where all of your switching is now.
It's like your menu, yeah. Jordan shows you the calendar. Now, again, this is a demo I haven't used, so you'll see there's no sessions here because I haven't used this particular, but there's your plan info, and if you wanted to delete it, you go here. If you want to make it inactive, you would go there. Again, for people that don't do this, and a lot of new folks forget about the fact that you can save your plans and make them inactive, and they won't show up here on your screen unless you select, the plan status. Here, if I just put active plans, that's all that's going to show up. This is in clinic. These will be people coming into your office. These are the active plans. But if I click inactive plans and add that on, and deleted plans, this number is going to get much bigger because you're bringing up all the plans that are whatever. That's just in the last month. You can go back 2 months, and then you're going to see, again, more sessions and so forth. Now, let me just take a moment here. I'm going to let Richard tell you about something while I go ahead and get a session going so you can see real live on-screen training in just a minute.
Yeah.
Rob, if I could cut in for just a second.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Oh, lovely. Please.
Navigate away from this page with the search criteria here, it will save it. So if you always want to bring up the last 2 months every time you come in, it will remember that. And so that way, because that's literally the purpose of putting that in there, is so that you don't have to load all of your data every single time. So that's really helpful for really large offices that have a ton of data. That way they can only load the last couple months, last few months, whatever you decide. You can, there's a bunch of preset options in there, or a custom. So you can decide however long you want to bring that up for, and it will save it. So that way, every time you come in, you don't have to redo all of your search criteria.
So do you want to walk me through that? This is a person whom I've seen. Of course, we started back in February, and then she had a period of time. Her husband's been really ill, and she couldn't come in. She just started coming back in for sessions. So you want me to do anything here to demonstrate that? This is in clinic. This is a person who comes into virtually my home office. What do you want me to show them?
If you click on the drop down under training time frame there on the left.
Okay.
So you'll see you have a bunch of different options. You can, and at the very bottom, you'll see there's all time. So you can, you know, if you've been running this software for 10 years, you can bring up every single possible protocol that you have ever made, which would probably be a lot. And then you can even put in a custom time frame. You know, if I only want to see the ones within the last, I don't know, 10 days, I can do that. And it will save that automatically. So if you close the software and come back in, it will remember all of your search criteria here. So you don't have to redo that every time that you log into the software.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's big. That's big. That's a huge headache for me when I started using it. The way we were going to release it several months ago, it was, you know, that prototype was really a headache, and you know, so support and the beta testers came back, and we spent weeks going over it, and they're like, okay, you know, this is going to be the easiest way probably for a clinician to work with it. So you'd be amazed how much time and people are involved in a simple decision about how does the drop down menu work. It's amazing.
All right. So now let me just go see which one I'm doing. I'm on demo SMR up. So right now, what I should find when I go back here to this sort of home screen, just to give you the wide view, is we should see that I have a session running. I just have to go find it. And I'm going to move this little window out of the way to do that, so I can get my arrows down here. Okay, so you go to training location, in clinic, and I'm just going to put down the past 2 months. And all right, so somewhere in here now, I should find that I have a plan that shows us. Got to get this little window out of the way. It drives me nuts.
And that was functioning on your home train. Oh yeah, there you go.
There it is. Okay, now in another minute or two, folks, you can just keep an eye on this. As you all know, you don't get any trend screen lines until you're a minute or two into the session. This session I just started, and what I expect to see in about another 30 seconds is you're going to start seeing trend screens come up. And if you want to watch it more closely, you click on it, and so now you have a little bit better view of that trend screen, and you can go back to previous sessions when you're in there. It tells you how long you've been training for.
Yeah, so you can actually watch them training and then flick back to earlier sessions and say, well, how are they doing with that alpha last time, or how are they doing with that delta last time they trained, right?
Exactly. And so we should start seeing that coming up any minute. But there, now they're training for 2 minutes, so we should see things starting to come up on this screen here. Maybe a bit of a delay. GoToMeeting really sucks up a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah.
And guess what? I don't have any more sessions in this demo, so I can't go back, but I'll pull up another one if we need to.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
What I've been doing with my clients at home clients is recording with screenshots and pasting them in Microsoft Word and sending them an ongoing record of every session that they have, complete information, so we can talk about those with those sophisticated people working on alpha or lowering theta, delta, whatever. So I'm just wondering if there's a way to do this live where I can actually show them a screen that I'm looking at that they can also look at if they do home training. That might be asking something impossible.
There will be. It's not here yet. It's not in this update. Are you asking for them to be able to see their own like trend screens, to be able to log in somewhere and see all those? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Jordan, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, that is coming. And similar to the session results screen, it's something that you'll be able to turn on and off. Because again, for some people, that's really helpful. They really want to see that data. For others, they can think too much into it. They can kind of make their own story based on what the data that they're seeing. So it'll be similar to that, where you can turn that feature on and off for people.
That's going to be beautiful. I'll just give you that one story. I've talked about him recently as a 14-year-old, very intelligent, that had motor tics, facial tics, and he started improving. But we worked on his alpha. Just so happened that we focused on that and his theta. And when I showed him the changes in his trend lines, he began to be able to associate those changes for the better with him actually feeling calmer and having less motor tics. And a couple times he would exclaim, "Oh, wow, Rodney, look at my alpha from last week, and now look at it." It's beautiful
Yeah.
to have that experience. Anyway, didn't mean
Well,
to
yeah.
take away.
Yeah, now here we go. Now, so here you got your trend screens, and it runs about, you see, here's our 3 minutes. We're starting the 4th minute. So it tells you how long you've been training for. Because we're on GoToMeeting and that slows things down. We're at 3 minutes here, but there's your session in a small window, and then of course your more detailed session. Now this is in simulation mode, folks. So, you know, the lines may look a little odd because it's just in simulation mode. But you can, you know, go and if you had more sessions, then you hit the calendar and it would show you, see, there's your first session. This is the first session. There's your session results. You can bring your training filters. So that's tells you a sense of what your you know, your ranges are. So one of the things you can do for those of you that are really trying to manage a busy practice, and we've talked about, you know, staying in the room versus not staying in a room. If you need to really leave a room and talk to somebody, you want to keep an eye on a training session, now you can do this. If you have this on another computer, the software in your office away from the room where you have somebody training, you can sit here. It's almost like you're watching the patient in real time. You can look at your numbers, look at your trend screens, and get a pretty good sense of how that person's training.
Good point, Rob. You could literally have several rooms and be watching them all at once.
Yeah,
A
yeah,
couple of big clinics that would love to have that ability. So you have a main person, a manager, clinical manager overlooking everything, and then you have technicians in the rooms. That could be
yeah.
extremely valuable.
If I had thought about it and had the time. Now we can do this next time we go over software updates. I'll have another computer running, and so you can see that if I had a clinic like I used to when I worked in a clinic, I had 2 separate stations, and I sat at a desk with 2 computers. Now I could sit at a desk with 1 computer and watch
Yeah.
people run. So we'll try to demonstrate that next time. But there's your standard filters. There's your training filters. This is a protocol. I'm just taking SMR up and high beta down. So there's your numbers there. So you can switch back and forth between those, and if you want to hide them, you can hide them. And then here's your actual screen.
Okay, let's pause for a second. Anybody have questions or comments on what we've shown here? Let's give everybody a second to kind of take a breath and see if
Well,
they.
another client I have with radical attachment disorder, very difficult, 14-year-old girl. She likes to criticize everything, the software, her mom. So, and she talks while she's doing her sessions, and we're trying to work with her on that. So I think now I'll be able to see when she's talking, when her high beta or beta goes through the roof, I can talk to her mom on another phone and say, is she talking now? Which is interfering with her session.
Interesting.
Now I want people to notice here too that these are plans you see that are inactive. So it'll show you that because it's showing you everything. If you just click on active, that one would go away. If I click on just inactive plans, and all the inactive plans will show up. So again, there's just different views of what you want to be looking at that this software, you know, gives you the opportunity. And you'll always see the training ones there. As long as you're in an active mode, you'll always see anybody who's training. And this would include your home trainers, and this would include people in your office. So if you're, again, having a patient you think that could use some guidance with home training, it's always great to be able to hop on like a Zoom meeting or whatever, but if they're training and you want to just see how they're doing, and you know the time, of course you have to know when they're training to watch it in real time, that you might have 3 people running. You just click on the one you want to watch, and next time I'll demonstrate you can do multiple screens like that.
Yeah, I know Judy and KK Ray are really doing a lot of this. They're probably pretty interested in this too.
I was looking over here under the search, under plans, where it says client number or plan. If I put a plan in, okay, could I see all the people that have been doing alpha theta? With, for example, if I put that up as a plan, would that be what comes up versus John Smith's alpha theta sessions?
There
You're
you
correct,
go,
Judy.
Judy. I just did it
Yeah.
while you were talking. I typed in alpha theta, and based on what I have that's active right now, that's what came up.
What we name the training plan or the
Is
actual?
Is it based on, for example, sometimes we name a training plan with a person's initials if it's modified specifically for them. But if I, can I get all the people who are training like that? Or do I, well, I guess
Yes.
I'll have to see that in
So
action.
like if you
There you
Rob,
go.
if you clear that search, you'll notice that Rob had a bunch of different SMR type protocols. You know, there's an SMR up CZEO, there's high beta down, there's a bunch of different types of SMR that we see right here. And so
Right.
if he puts in just SMR, it will pull up anything that has, you know, those 3 letters in the plan name. And
Right.
so if you put someone's initials, you could search by their initials in addition to their name. It does, you know, you can change your training plan name. So even though I'm running, say, an SMR protocol, I could change my plan name to first protocol or something like that. And so in that sort of case, it's looking at the actual training plan name and not the protocol itself. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, thank you.
So here's SMR. Now you see I have this one called SMR monitor. So in theory, when I type in monitor, it just pulls up that. If I'm looking for a protocol 1 at C3, C4, I didn't type it properly.
Yeah, you'll have to put the dash in there. It will
Yeah.
be it will be picky in that sort of thing.
It's so picky, Jordan.
But
It's
maybe
right.
that's something that we can watch out for. You know, not everyone will
Right.
remember to type a dash, and so maybe if, you know, if C3, C4 is entered, bring up anything that has C3, C4.
Yeah.
whatever
So
letter.
if you're not sure which client or what the number is, yes, if you type in C3, that's going to pull up, you know, should pull up. Well, in my limited one, this is the one that's going to come up anyway because everything else. But if I put in inactive, there you go. See, there's protocol 4. This is a coherence protocol with F3, F4. So it's going to pull up anything that has the C3, C4 in it. So in answer to your question, you can put the client's name, like you saw me do. Oops, Rob needs to learn how to type. I never took a typing course. There's Diane, that's specific. I can put in like, you know, like SMR, which you saw, and that pulls up people with all the SMR plans. Or I can put in a client number, 702. And if that's an active client and they're not, so I have to put in, oh, I know, that's not a number in my category, it's 0702. And maybe that's not an active person, so I've got to go back here and find an actual number. So let's do 706, okay. 0706. So there's Diane's plan. So you have those, you can reach the same information in multiple ways, if that
So it
clarifies.
says 18 sessions were completed, but only 1 came up. And yet you
Right.
have all of them checked. So is that just
Right.
because
But
076 is
here's
diagnosed?
why. Here's why. She hasn't trained until this month for a couple of months. So she's got 18 sessions completed. She started back here, but it's not going to pull up all the sessions unless I click on her thing now, Judy. There's all of her sessions.
Aha.
And if she was training in this moment and you saw training up here, while she's training, you could scroll through like Richard described. You can scroll through any of those sessions while they're training And in this case, I could scroll through all 18.
Can you modify the scale if you wanted, for example, some alphas are very high and they're higher than 20. And if I wanted to look, can I modify that while I'm looking at it?
In
The
this
size,
particular view, no, it is defaulted to 20. If you want to change the scale of this graph, you'll need to dig in a little further, go into the plan details, that blue button at the bottom, on the right side, Rob. Yeah, you'll
Gotcha.
go into the plan details, and that's where you can really dig into this screen. You can change the scale, you can change a whole bunch
let
of
me
things
not make
here.
it so dramatic. I'll make it 35. All right.
The little window that comes up on the right there, that's really just for like an at a glance sort of view. So if you looked at that and you didn't see a blue line at all, because it's up above 20, that's when you would want to view the plan details here, change the scale so you can really see everything in much more detail. That kind of panel there on the right side there
Oops, sorry.
is really just for like at a glance sort of viewing, kind of going quickly through things. For more in-depth sort of looking at it, you'll want to go into the plan details.
Quick question to that, Jordan. Martin here.
Mm-hmm.
If I do that, if I change the scale for one of these sessions or clients, does it change the scale for all, or is it then saved under that client?
It would only be saved for that client.
Wow, fantastic. Hey, you guys did a job there. My admiration.
You know, for
Thank
those that may
you.
be a bit confused, because she's a relatively low power person, even though I jumped up to 35, all it did was condense these because she's never going to be up at 20 even with her typical sessions, if that makes sense. So in her case, what I did wouldn't make any sense. It just squashes everything down. But if she were somebody with higher power, again, knowing I'm going to demonstrate this again, I'll pull up several cases like that, then it makes a lot of difference. So possibly, let's do
There
this.
is a possibility that feature could be available in the future, Judy. One problem that we would likely have is just the amount of room we have here. To add another button to be able to change the scale, it would make that part of the screen really busy, maybe a little bit more confusing.
Got
Okay,
it.
now this patient here, you saw his, you couldn't even see his alpha when I did it. So now I've taken his alpha up to 40. And now when we go back to, you know, all plans in his plan, it just takes a minute. Now we should see, this should catch up in a minute. So anyhow, maybe I haven't done something. I'm not giving it enough time, but
Rob,
it
what
will
were
do
you
that.
trying to do?
I went into his plan and I increased his readings to 30. I went into the training plan status.
You guys didn't understand.
Go ahead. Someone's going to say
Sorry,
something.
I'm sorry I wasn't muted, but one of the things that I think Judy asked was you only had one training plan showing up for that person, and you had mentioned that there was a difference in time when you first started training versus the current one, which was today. And if you had clicked on the little box that said the range, you have 2 months. So I imagine if you made the range a greater number of time, then you would have had more of those sessions show up versus the pull down.
Right. That's right. Yep. Again, because you have to have those. This is last 2 months, and I've only done a few sessions with him. We're sort of winding him down. So
I do want to clarify here. I know we're over time. How it says 27 sessions completed here, but you know we're only seeing the most recent.
Right.
Is going to be the one on here. So all 27 sessions are here within this training
Right.
plan. That's what this card is. And so we'll always see the most recent trend screen as our little kind of preview window there. But if you want to look into seeing all of those other 27 sessions, you'll want to either, like Rob just did, do the drop down there on the right, or dig in even further and view the plan details.
Yeah, see, here's his first session, and if you scroll down, there's his first session. Even though I've only got it set for the last 2 months. So like Jordan is saying, the first session is down here, and all of his sessions. Once you pull up his card, if you will, then everything is here. And his last session on 7/4 is right there.
I just want to tell you that I'm giving you all a standing ovation, and I think all of us are, because these changes are just so wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I can't even say thank you enough.
Well,
So
you should thank Jordan the most because she's the one who put into place the review and quality control for getting an optimal outcome for all the clinicians. She's the one who said, there's a better way to do this. And we brought
Yay,
in,
Jordan.
and
Jordan,
we brought
early
in
Christmas.
Yeah, literally blood, sweat, and tears have gone into this update. Everyone has worked so hard. I'm so proud of everybody, all the work that has gone
including
into
the
this.
clinicians. We had many
Absolutely.
clinicians come in and spend an hour just trying to figure out how to make it work, and we just watched them and saw where they got lost. That was so helpful for
That was wonderful.
Yeah, that was good.
development people. It was a revelation for the development team. They were like, "Oh my God, they couldn't see that button." It was like
Imagine.
it looked like
Yeah.
a fly died. Left their breakfast on the screen. You can't. What is that? That's a button.
What Richard's talking about, and I know we have to go, but they would say, okay, I want you to find a certain patient who you've done SMR on, and this is the screen you had, and they wanted to see how we would go about finding that patient and was in clinic or whatever. So that's how they were testing it. Yeah, so Jordan did a great job. Okay, folks, I know we're over the hour. We will cover this stuff again. I'm not sure when. I'll check with Richard when we advertise it for a full, another full session on software review. He'll keep you posted about when they actually are going to do an actual release. I'm sure Jordan will post it again on the listserv once it's been released. And so we all know that it's coming, or it's been released. And if nothing else, we'll see you on Friday. Yeah.
See you Friday. Thanks
Friday.
again.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks,
Jordan.
everyone.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.